Welcome back to the special episode of A Little Bit Mental. It's a weekly podcast where we look at the real, raw sides of mental health without the clinical jargon. I'm your host, Betty. If you're tuning in today, I want you to step out of your normal routine. Listen closely to what I have to say. Today, we're addressing a highly sensitive, deeply critical topic: the protection of children in high-pressure environments. We will be discussing the psychological dynamics of manipulation and how systemic failures can lead to the exploitation of young people. Because of the heavy nature of this discussion, please prioritize your well-being while listening. Feel free to pause, take a break if you need to, or even step away. Our decision to unpack this topic today comes in the wake of tragic news that has shaken the entertainment world. This week, a beloved actress named Hayden Panetierre tragically passed away at the age of 36. In the months leading up to the sudden passing of Hayden, she released an incredibly brave, raw memoir titled "This Is Me, A Reckoning." In that book, she did something few people in her position have the courage to do. She spoke openly about her experiences as a child star. She used the term groomed to describe the conditioning she faced. She detailed how she felt pressure by the industry to be a little soldier, who felt that no was never an option. Her story, it has reignited a vital global conversation about the importance of agency for children and how early manipulation can impact mental health into adulthood. We're tackling this subject today to provide educational awareness. By understanding the psychological factors that allow exploitation to occur and using Hayden's reflections as a guide, we can better advocate for the safety of children in our families, in our schools, and in our families. So let's explore these themes together. We're going to focus on prevention and protection. Hayden's story, it's a heartbreaking reminder that exploitation, it doesn't always wear an obvious mask. Sometimes the mask of opportunity, mentorship, or success. When she described being taught that her boundaries didn't matter, she was describing the ultimate goal of psychological manipulation, which is total compliance. To understand how a child gets pushed into that state of mind, we have to look past the myths. We have to take a look at the anatomy of how trust is built and then weaponized. So let's move into our first major focus today. How does this cycle begin? And what does it look like when an environment or individual begins to chip away at a child's natural defenses? So let's break down the psychology of how this dynamic functions. To protect against grooming, we have to look past the myths. Pop culture, it often portrays predators as obvious villains hiding in dark alleys. The psychological reality, it is much more complex, and it's much closer to home. In the vast majority of cases, the person who grooms a child, it is someone the family already knows and trusts. It could be a relative, a neighbor, a coach, or a mentor. Grooming, it is a slow, methodical process of predatory manipulation. The adult does not start with abusive behavior. Instead, they weaponize empathy, kindness, and compliance. We saw a deeply tragic and profound example of this recently in the words of Hayden. She described herself as being trained to be a little soldier. She wrote that from a very young age, she was conditioned to believe that no was never an option. Her marching orders were very simple: memorize the lines, hit the mark, and do exactly what the adults in power told her to do. That is the psychological core of grooming. It strips away a child's agency. It systematically teaches them that their boundaries do not matter and that their only value lies in making the adults around them happy. For Hayden, being handed happy pills by her own team at just 15 years old, and then later being pushed into a predatory situation with an older man at 18, these were the direct results of this early conditioning. When a child is raised to believe they cannot say no, they become incredibly vulnerable to further exploitation as they grow up. Hayden, she spoke openly about how that early grooming sparked a devastating cycle of people-pleasing, severe anxiety, and self-harm through substance abuse later in her life. Her story, it reminds us that grooming isn't always a single person in a corner. Sometimes it's an entire environment that teaches a child to suppress their own survival instincts. When we understand what Hayden meant by being a little soldier, we can see exactly how the stages of grooming build that compliance piece by piece. It rarely happens overnight. It can take weeks, months, or even years. There are 6 stages of grooming. Psychologists and criminal justice experts, they generally view grooming as a progression that happens in distinct stages. So let's break down how the psychological trap is built. The first thing they do is target the victim. The adult will observe a group of children and select one who seems isolated, lonely, or eager to please. Second, they gain the trust. The adult integrates themselves with the parents. They might offer to help with chores, drive the child to practice, or mentor them, making themselves seem indispensable. Next, they start fulfilling needs. The adult, it's like a void. If the child wants to be a performer, the adult promises them connections. If the child feels ignored at home, the adult listens to them for hours. That's followed by isolating the child. The adult will gradually separate the child from their peers and their family. They create situations to be alone with the child, like special weekends, late nights, tutoring sessions. Then we'll have desensitization. The adult slowly introduces boundary violations. This might start with inappropriate jokes, intense secrets, or lingering physical contact. This is testing to see if the child or parent objects. Then, the final is they secure secrecy. The adult frames the relationship as a special bond that outsiders wouldn't understand. They tell the child, "This is our little secret. If you tell your parents, it will ruin everything." So let's look at some of the warning signs and how to prevent it. Because grooming is explicitly designed to be indivisible to outsiders, the warning signs can be incredibly subtle. However, there are behavioral shifts we can look at for us parents, educators, and mentors. Some of the red flags in an adult would be An adult who consistently prefers the company of children over people their own age. An adult who frequently gives an individual child expensive gifts, money, or tech gadgets without a clear reason or parental permission. That can be an adult who constantly tries to bypass parental rules or create private, unmonitored communication channels with a child, such as texting or by gaming apps. Some of the red flags you might see in a child that is experiencing this is sudden, unexplained changes in behavior, such as becoming unusually withdrawn. They might become anxious or aggressive. They can become intensively sensitive about their phone, their computer, or who they are messaging. They might display a sudden influx of money, like new clothes or gifts, that they cannot account for. So to counter this, we must foster open communication. We must teach children the concept of body autonomy early. We have to let them know that they have control over their own body and that they never have to hug or kiss anyone if they do not want to. Crucially, we have to ban the concept of secrets with adults. We have to teach children the difference between a surprise, like a hidden birthday gift that everyone will find out about soon, and a secret, which is designed to hide behavior permanently. Tell them plainly that no safe adult will ever ask you to keep a secret from your parents. So, as we close this heavy but vital conversation, let's remember that awareness is our strongest tool. If you suspect a child is being groomed or abused, please do not hesitate to act. You do not need absolute proof to voice a concern or make a report. You just need a reasonable suspicion. If you are in the United States, you can call or text the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline. That number is 1-800-422-4453. It is completely free, confidential, and available 24/7 with professional counselors who can guide you on what steps to take. So, once again, thank you for listening to this special episode of A Little Bit Mental. Only by educating ourselves can we build safer spaces for the next generation. So, look out for the young people in your lives, and I will see you back here soon. So, thanks again.